Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, KW Worldwide Regions, OPs, and team leaders. Thank you so much for joining us for part 2 of Team Leader Fundamentals. Welcome to today's session. We are so honored to have each and every one of you. Quick housekeeping items. We want to give you a big thank you to all of our regions and team leaders and owners who have been sticking out this content. What you've shared on social media and with us through WhatsApp has been amazing. Your commitment, your learning-based attitudes, the way you've dug into this content and listened and gotten so much from Mark. It's been really, really awesome to see that this has been valuable. So please continue to share your feedback with us. We're so excited that we're going to get to complete our course today with you again. And so with that, we want to let you know today we're going to be able to get through all of our content in about 2 hours. So if you need to plan for your evenings especially, we know that we went very late for some areas with that 4-hour first block. Today we should be able to get through everything in about 2 hours. And so at that point, we'll make sure we have enough time, if you do want to stay on with us, to take ahas and go through some wrap-up items that Robert with Keller Williams University is going to help us do. So he and I will wrap you up today with ahas, key takeaways for your next actionable items and your next steps to take, and of course answer any questions that you have. So with that, we'll let Mark take us away for part 2 of Team Leader Fundamentals. Thanks again, everybody.
Thanks guys.
Mark.
All right, good morning, everybody. I'm so excited. Thank you for coming back. By the way, thank you, JP. The engagement has been amazing from Worldwide, and I just want to thank everybody and understand there's an entire team that it takes to put this on. So thank you to everybody for doing that. So we're going to jump right back in. We've got some videos today. We're going to actually walk you through what it's like to have an actual recruiting appointment. And so before we go there, as you do your ahas this afternoon, I want you to think of a couple things. Number one, I want to reiterate from the other day that if you don't have data in your country, I want you to think like a seller. If you were a seller, how would you find a real estate agent to sell your home? That's all you need to know to build a database of great agents to go recruit. So you're looking for agents. If they advertise in leaflets or pamphlets or whatever, you need to build a database of all the top agents in your marketplace, because that'll be the pool that you'll recruit from over time. You want to help your ALCs and your agents build their growth share, and so that's going to be another great place for you to get those leads to call on. And then your vendors, the people who make money from a real estate transaction, are going to be a great source as well. Allied Resources, kind of the same thing. And then entire companies. I like to go fast, and so if I can roll in a whole company, that I got my recruiting goals done for the month and we can take the day off. That's how I like to roll. So we're going to jump right in. Here's a couple things to think about when you're handling objections. Remember our favorite script. That's exactly why we need to meet. So no matter what someone says while you're talking to them on the phone, get them to the appointment. The whole point is to get them to the appointment, not to close them over the phone. And that's something I see with newer team leaders that might be a little bit of a mistake, is we give too much information, we talk too much. And so what we really want to do is just drive that recruit to meet in person. We want them to see our office, by the way. We want them to feel the energy around Keller Williams. So then we're going to isolate any objections. So we're going to point out, I know that you love your broker. That's exactly why we need to meet, right? I know you're busy. That's exactly why we need to meet. We have the solution for whatever ails you. All right, so let's keep going. So we're going to move on to the actual appointment. Now the appointment is set up in 3 different phases, and I want you to think about these phases separately. So in the beginning of my career as a team leader 18 years ago, I found, like many, I like to just tell everything there was to tell about Keller Williams, and quite honestly, I think I bored people and scared some people away. So what we have to understand about any sales process, especially a recruiting appointment, is that it's all about the recruit. It's all about us asking them questions. You'll notice through the appointment, we don't talk about Keller Williams until we get to the action plan to fill the gap that we've created through the needs analysis. Now, what does that mean? Three-part process. The first part is a needs analysis. Again, remember, if you want any of these documents, you can go to Team Leader TL Fundamentals on Facebook, and you can pull all these down. Now, it's a good time to mention that we have a 23-step follow-up process from the time you make an appointment on the phone with an agent till the time they join your company. And so what happens is you never drop the ball. They never slip through the cracks, if you will, because we have this 23-point follow-up process. Now that is also on the TL Fundamentals page on Facebook. And so literally, let me give you a couple of items on that, and I won't give you all 23 steps. You can read those for yourself and adjust for your marketplace. But here's what I will say. What happens a lot of time with team leaders, or if you're like me, is that we go so fast, right? We set appointments, and what happens about half the time with cappers is they don't show up. And so as this was happening year after year after year, we had to develop systems to make sure that we could have those people show up to the appointment. If they don't show up to the appointment, they typically don't join your company. That's a little recruiting humor. But what happens is we're gonna walk you through some of those steps. For instance, we're going to give them a behavioral assessment. It might be the DISC profile. It might be the KPA if you're in the United States and Canada. And then we can engage with them and see if they've actually taken that assessment. Almost 100% of the time when someone takes a behavioral assessment, they show up for the appointment. If they go days without taking that assessment, then we have one of our staff members call on them and ask them to take the assessment. So needs analysis, what is that? We're going to watch a video here, but let me set this up. The needs analysis is really a list of 26 questions, and they're designed with neuro-linguistic programming. It's easy for me to say, right? They're designed to cause a gap. Now, what does that mean? Everyone has a gap in their business. So these questions are designed to discover what that gap is. Here's what we find. If we don't ask the right questions, we never get to the real issues in an agent's business. So the needs analysis is designed to make sure that we understand exactly what's going on with that agent. Those 26 questions, for example, tell me about your business. What was your goal last year? Did you hit your goal? Are you on pace to hit your goal this year? Who's coaching you to hit that goal, etc. Those are all designed to create a gap. So we're going to watch a video here, assuming that my technical skills haven't left me, and just tell me what you think here. We'll look for your ahas. Let's see. Watch this. All right. Here we go. Needs analysis. Are you ready? George, coming to video.
Wendy, I am so excited to get to meet you today. So I have two goals today. I really want to just learn about you, and secondly, answer any questions you might have about Keller Williams. Ready to get started?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I'm glad to be here.
Great. Well, tell me about your business.
Well, my business is doing great this year. I'm having my best year ever. I'm on track to do about $4 million, and which is just super exciting. I mean, I've only been in business for a few years, but I'm going to make a lot of money this year.
That's
so I'm excited
great.
about that. Yeah.
Good job. So what's
Yeah.
going great in your business?
Well, definitely that. I mean, I feel like now that I've been doing this for 3 years, a lot of business is just coming to me instead of me having to scramble after it. And that's it. It's just kind of the business is just turning a little bit, and I feel like I have a handle on everything as far as like systems go and things like that.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
changes would you make in your business? What would you do differently?
Well, I'm working a lot. Yeah, I'm working too much right now. So,
About how many hours a week do you think?
well, if I had to be honest, it's probably like 70, 80 hours a week.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Okay. And you said too much. So is that too much?
Yeah, that's definitely too much. I have 2 kids. They're 8 and 12, and I don't get to see my kids that much anymore.
Okay. So what I hear you saying is you don't choose to work 70, 80 hours a week.
No, I'm definitely not a workaholic.
Okay. So what's driving that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm always scrambling a little bit. Everything feels really urgent all the time, and I feel like I'm kind of working at night a lot and doing deals at night, closing deals at night, but I don't want to do that. I mean, I have 2 children.
Okay. And so what I hear you saying is you choose to have some of your life back. Is
Yes,
that right?
I'd like to
Okay.
have some of my life back.
Without the money going down.
Right, exactly.
Okay,
I mean, my
okay.
kids are 8 and 12, and
Okay.
they're involved in a lot of stuff, and I honestly don't want to miss it.
Okay, great. Anything else you would change about your business right now?
I mean, no, I don't think so. I'm happy with my business.
Okay. And so do you think the coaching training environment where you currently are supports your goals of working less and making more money?
No, I don't think so. I don't see a lot of people in my office who are any different than me.
Okay.
They're all working a lot, or maybe they're part-time, but I seem to be one of the bigger producers in my office, and everybody else is kind of doing like I'm doing. But I don't really know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to compare it to.
Okay. And so if I could show you an environment where people were making a lot more money and working a lot less, would that be appealing to you?
Well, yeah.
Okay. Okay, great.
That
Well,
sounds great.
I'm going to put a star by that real quick because we're going to talk about that here in a minute.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. So what's your goal for next year? How many units? What's your volume goal? All that good stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, since I've been in business, I've increased my business 50%. So my goal next year is $6 million.
Okay. Okay. And so do you intend to work 100 hours a week to do that, or?
I don't. I need to do something different. I mean, that's why I'm here.
Okay. Okay. Great. Okay. Who's coaching you? Who's consulting you on how to do this?
Nobody.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you keep calling me.
Well, I'm going to put a star, but I promise not to be a pest. I really want to see you do well,
Well, thank you.
and have more time.
I
with your
appreciate
family.
that.
So we have a lot of agents who were right where you were, and they sat in your chair, and now they've found that they can work a lot less
Okay.
and make more money. So,
Great. I mean,
and I'm happy to introduce those people to you.
Well, I love that. Thank you.
All right, so please put your ahas on Slido. What did you see there? What did you hear? How many times did we talk about Keller Williams in that needs analysis? What did you notice? Who was the appointment all about? Julian, you can't hear great? Okay. It was all about her. Good job, Elizabeth. Yeah, you might want to write this down. I'm going to put a star by that. In the needs analysis, there are a list of actual 26 questions, and I would ask you to have those in front of you and actually read those questions to the recruit. I've never had anyone say no when I ask the question, would you mind if I take notes to get to know you well? And so what happens is you're taking these notes and you're going to get triggered. Someone's going to say, you know what, my business would be great if I had more training. And you're going to want to say, oh my gosh, we're with the #1 training company in the whole world. This is amazing. And the minute you do that, you focus on what could be the wrong thing. And so let me give you the analogy there. What we realize as team leaders progress in their career is a lot of times we address the smoke and never get to the fire. Well, what does that mean? Most agents aren't going to come out and tell you all the things that are wrong with their business that they'd like to improve right up front. So these questions are designed to go deeper, create that gap. Anytime someone says something to you where you know you want to jump on it and sell Keller Williams, I want you to use the script, you know what, let me put a star by that and let's come back to that. And just go on to the next question, go on to the next question, because you can't get through those questions without truly understanding what's ailing that agent in their business. And so we've got some ahas. It was all about the recruit, love that. No KW, all about her, yep, love that. This is a human engagement thing, not a Keller Williams thing. So the entire needs analysis portion, that was a very short video. That's typically 25 to 30 minutes if you do it right, in my opinion. And so in that time, I want you to think about it this way. As the recruiter, I'm talking maybe 20% of the time. I want the recruit to talk 80% of the time. So I'm asking these thought-provoking questions so the agent self-discovers what's going on in their business. And so here's the rule of thumb. When I get 3 stars, when I hear the same thing 3 times and I say, great, I'm going to put a star by that, we'll come back to that and go on to the next question, then I know I've gotten to the fire. So could you identify, tell me on Slido, what was her gap? What was ailing her in her business? Did you identify that? People like to talk about themselves. Yes, they do, Joanna. Is it Joanna? By the way, Jarmilla, is that your son? Is that your son, Jarmilla? What a cutie. That's awesome. I love it. We're raising up youngsters now. This is great. Time, too much work. Yes. Time, too much work. More time for family. So there was a question in there. See, what happens is agents are stuck. They're just doing the best they know how. And so what happens is when someone says to you they're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, but they want to double your business, that's a really easy one to handle. You say, well, if you're going to double your business, does that mean you're going to work 120 hours a week? And of course, the answer is no to that. So they're missing some system, model, or person. So we've started to identify what's going on in her business. And for the sake of time, we made these very short videos. But if over 25 minutes, Do you see how we could go really deep with this tool? Any other ahas? Too many hours of work? Yes. Now, here's what's fun about doing this 5,000 times. What you realize is the patterns are the same. And so there's going to be 4 things that come up from recruits no matter where you go. Those 4 things are going to be time, money, leverage, and opportunity. They're on your screen here. So we'll go over these again. Time, money, leverage, and opportunity. And let me show you how I do this in real time. Look at this. We have props. We have props. So I have used, since this book has come out, I think it was into 2003, 2004, I have used this book in recruiting appointments, and it was the only thing I used in recruiting appointments until we had the great technology features that we've had at various times. And so with this book, this is where my prescription is going to come from for one of those 4 ailments. In over 5,000 appointments, I've never found one that doesn't relate back to time, money, leverage, or opportunity. And so here's a couple key pages I want you to think about. George, we may go to the flip chart for this. A couple key pages I want you to think about in this book that will help you. And so think about it this way. We've got time, money, leverage, and opportunity. Now what's fun about this is you can take that, put a bracket around it, and take that and put a bracket around it like this. Got confusing. Because really, these 4 things become 2 things. So for the time and leverage conversation, I want you to just go to page 273 in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. Page 273. You can also do page 195, etc. But page 273 is our actual org chart, and it looks like this. I don't know if you can see that, George. Oh, over here. Look, it looks like this. Look. Oh, we got zoom. Look at this. George is amazing, by the way. So this is the answer. This is going to be part of the prescription for the time or leverage piece. And then if you want to go talk about money and opportunities, we're going to start with building a database and lead generating. And so we're going to go to page 137. Page 137 is that bullseye lead generation model. Let's go to page 137. Dun, dun, dun. And it looks like this. Now, what's going to happen when you do this, I want you to think about where you are in this moment. You've gone through 25 or 30 minutes of a needs analysis. You've identified what might ail that agent in their business. Now you've uncovered the fact that their big issue, in Wendy's case, it was time for family, right? So I'm going to take her directly into, when we go to the prescribe what's going to help her with her business, we're going to go straight to page 273, and we're going to start talking about what her life would look like if she were to use leverage and if she were to hire an admin. Now, there's a whole sales cycle we won't go into today, but what you want to do is you want to keep driving back to what her big why is. And you're going to hear as these videos go on, I'm going to keep pushing on what her gap is and what the challenges she faces in her business, because we know we have the solution. Another aha I hope you heard there is she's one of the top producers in her office. So she's in an environment already that we know that there's no one doing a lot of business above her to learn from. We know in our environment, we have 30% of the top agents in this industry in this company. So there's not an agent in your area that can't learn from some agents we already have and can't learn from this MREA book. So time, money, leverage, opportunity. Think about this as well. I want you to imagine you're sitting there with a real estate agent as a team leader or as an OP, or everybody can build their growth share. So this could be anybody. But think about the effect it has when you're talking about time and leverage or money and opportunity, and you're able to quote direct pages out of this book. Now, little secret from me, those are the 2 go-to pages I've used for 14 years now, right? 15 years. I don't know what every page in the book says, but it sounds like I do, right? Now, I've read the book many, many times. I have it bound, I have it tabbed, I have all those things. I'm on my 13th copy because this is the greatest recruiting tool that we still today that we have. And so, but if you understand those 2 pages, you're going to look like an expert immediately. Sound good? Everybody good? Any ahas on that? Work, money, less work. More money, less work. Yep. All right, cool.
I have one aha, if you don't mind.
Yeah, jump in, JP.
I think for our team leaders that are new to this role, Sorry.
JP, everybody.
Learning how to use microphones. My aha from what you shared, Mark, is that for our team leaders in the role, especially our new ones, that I hope they realize how powerful this role can be, how rewarding this role can be after watching that video. Because when you're sitting in a position to be a consultant and a coach to a talented, especially talented market share appointments, capping agents, there's something very rewarding in that, at least for me. I find it a very exciting opportunity, and many team leaders tell us it's the best role in the organization. So I think when you have the opportunity to go deep and use the needs analysis, it takes the pressure off of you of selling Keller Williams, and it's probably one of the most rewarding roles you'll be able to do in our organization. So I hope team leaders that are excited about that really see and understand the power of that needs analysis in giving them that experience.
Yeah, here's what I would tell you on that, and I love that you said that. The team leader role is the best role in our company, hands down, if you do it right. Now that's a big caveat, right? Because I've also not done it right, and it can be the worst role in our company, to be honest. And so there's so many things that we do every day, and that goes back to the 3 questions that I asked you. What am I doing that if I stop doing, no one would notice? And that's what a lot of us do as team leaders, especially in the beginning. But it is an amazing, rewarding opportunity. Most of the people who've earned bigger opportunities in this company did so through the path of team leader. And if you understand this, if you understand the MREA, you understand leverage yourself. Building a market center, JP, is exactly like building a real estate team. And so the more you study this book, the more you can help others. Here's the other huge thing, and I found this in my own career. Because agents are working so much in their business and they're going after that next listing or that next buyer, what happens is, as a team leader, I have instant credibility thanks to Gary and Jay and Dave, right? I have instant credibility. I've become a consultant who can help any agent on the planet because of this book, because I've studied this book and they haven't, basically. So if you want to get light years ahead as a team leader, I would master the 4 models in this book and understand they're just as relevant, if not more today than they've ever been. And just a side note, not a commercial for MREA, and maybe it is, agents are getting away from basic systems and models in our industry right now because they think technology is going to solve everything for them. They're buying leads, they're doing different things. The core business for a real estate agent is still about building a database and communicating with them effectively. It's still about building leverage. And if you think about it, most people in real estate are salespeople. They're not professional people managers. I like to tell people when they hire their first assistant, you've left real estate sales forever, now you're in human resources. Good luck, right? It's a whole different skill set. So we have career visioning and 30, 60, 90, and we have all these courses to teach you about this, but here's what happens. Agents go to career visioning, they learn how to hire, right? They go one time and they look at that, how comprehensive it is, and they say, you know what, this is too complicated. I don't want to worry about hiring people. I'm going to hire the first person I meet, and it's going to work out great, and it never does. And so what happens is, the more you can get your agents back to the basics, the more you're going to win, and the more you can show recruits. Because here's the other thing I've noticed traveling around the world is that it doesn't matter where I go, our competitors are not teaching the way that we're teaching. And that's not a slap on them at all. What that means is that they have a different focus. Our focus is teaching and training, and so we use that to our benefit. So we're gonna prescribe a solution. Before we go there, do you know what your value proposition is? Let's start with you. Do you know what your value proposition is? You don't have to tell us on Slido, but I want you to think about it. I want you to think about it this way and then comment. You have to understand your value proposition to a potential recruit, right? I would ask you, and this is one of the litmus tests I use when I travel around and teach team leaders. I ask the OPs, could your team leader recruit you? Could they recruit me, right? If they can recruit me, I think they're a good candidate to be a team leader, a good team leader. So if your team leader couldn't recruit you, that's telling us something, right? And far too often we put someone in that role that we set them up for failure because they just don't understand how to sell, how to recruit, etc. So in that vein, I want you to always think about, do you understand what your value proposition is? As a team leader, you have to understand what your personal value proposition is. What's your experience, whether it's in real estate or otherwise? What's your experience? How can you help top agents? Then I want you to go to the market center. What does your market center do great? What's your market center's value proposition? We really need to understand that. Then we're going to go to our region or country. What's the value of being in South Africa? What's the value? right? I think it's a pretty cool place. So do you understand the value proposition? Do you understand how that value proposition relates to your competitors? And then finally, what we need to understand is, what is Keller Williams' value proposition? And I think most of us have that backwards. I think most of us recruit to Keller Williams instead of recruiting to the environment that we're in. Now, that's a setup to cause better retention when you recruit to the environment that you're in. So we need to understand really those 4 key components, those 4 value propositions, and think about it this way. People join because of the conversation they have with the team leader. Most of the time, they join because of the conversation they have with the team leader. They stay because of Keller Williams systems and models. Now, that's that may sound like an unpopular opinion, and it's true. So again, we're going to be 100% transparent. So the better your team leader can get, or if you are a team leader, the better you can get at doing a needs analysis and not talking about Keller or you or anybody, just focusing on the recruit. Then bringing it back to the value prescription. And on the value prescription, you have to make sure that the value prescription is completely indigenous to your market center. Well, what does that mean? If all of our value prescriptions, if all the things that someone needs help on in their business, they can learn by reading a book, then suddenly they don't need us anymore, right? They can go buy the book. And so as we walk through our action plans here for our recruits, you're going to see that a lot of the action plans can only be had at my office with my consulting at Keller Williams, etc. So as we think about where we are in the process, we've created a gap. Here are the issues in my business I'd like to solve. For Wendy, I need more time with my family. So as we go through this next video, you're going to hear some of the prescriptions that we're going to give her to help her think about things differently, but they're going to be things that she can only get with our market center, right? So let's keep going here. Here's a couple examples of your market center value proposition for you. Culture, your training calendar, growth share, disappearing cap, all those good things. I would add a 5th, and that's your people. We are a company of people. Our people are the most important resources we have. And so your people are going to, remember, your staff makes or breaks you. Your people makes or breaks the market center. So, all right, let's keep on going. Here comes the next video. George, I'm setting you up. This is our value prescription.
So let's talk about leverage a little bit.
Okay.
So as we know from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, there's 198 tasks for
That's
a
a
real
good
estate
book.
agent. It is a great book. And so 192 of those tasks are really administrative focused.
Oh,
right?
wow.
So right now, of those, if you had to guess, of those 198 tasks, how many do you think you're doing for your business?
I'm doing everything right now.
Okay.
I literally do it all.
So no leverage in any area of doing any of those tasks.
I mean, I had help setting up my website. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I could show you how leveraging off 192 of those tasks would free you up to focus on the most important things, what do you think would happen in your business?
Well, it would definitely increase.
By how much?
Well, I mean, if I wasn't doing all those tasks and all that time spent on those tasks, I mean, it would probably at least double, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier in your environment right now, everyone's kind of operating the way that you are. If you were in an environment where, let's say, the average top agent was doing 20 million in volume and working 30 hours a week,
Wow.
would that be something that would be helpful to you?
Yeah.
So if they can do it, do you think you can do it?
Yeah, I think so.
I promise you can.
Yeah.
Because most of those people were not at 4 million in their 3rd year in real estate.
Oh,
so,
okay.
So I promise that you can, and all of them have one thing in common, and it's not just they're at Keller Williams. Do you know what it is?
I thought you were going to say Keller Williams.
It's that they followed
Is it
this
you?
model. No, it's not me. I promise it's not me. It's the systems and models of our company.
Oh, okay.
And so they literally went through this, read through this book, and they followed the model at various degrees. And so I want to take you to one page. It's page 273. And this is our organizational model.
Okay.
And really, when we define those tasks, these are the people, these are the who we need to find to grow our business at a high level, to have that leverage, to get our time back. And so that first hire that we make is an administrative person.
I don't know. I mean, that sounds, I don't think I'm ready for that.
I totally understand.
Yeah, that
And
sounds really scary.
And everyone who sat in that seat felt the same way. Isn't that exciting? So here's what's
I
fun.
guess.
Here's what's fun. Well, if you look at our top producers, they all have an administrative person that handles their administrative tasks.
Okay.
That's how they're able to do so much volume in so little
But
time.
how do they know like what to pay them and
Well, let me ask you.
how
and
to
this-
do payroll and all that
Yeah,
stuff? I
that's-
mean,
that's
I
all
don't
fun
even have a
stuff.
clue how to do all that. I mean, my background's not in.
well, who would consult you on that?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
We might have some people.
okay.
Remember the KPA that you took? to
Oh,
cover
yeah.
personal-
Yeah.
That's a tool that we use here that shows us your natural behavior and it helps us identify where you might.
So you could use that for admins
You got
too?
it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in fact,
And you know what that person looks like?
we have multiple roles that it compares to.
Okay,
and
because
so
I know when you and I went over it, we had that job
Yeah.
fit report or
Yeah.
whatever that was.
Job match, yeah.
Okay, job match. And so you have that for
Yeah.
different people.
And you are a mega
Oh,
agent.
Okay.
And what that tells us is your natural behavior to go ahead and hire leverage. Isn't that fun?
Yeah, it's fun. I like that.
That's great. So Wendy, what's your average commission?
My average commission is $9,000.
$9,000. I want to show you something that might help us with this conversation. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. So what we have here is this is the CGI calculator. Now what we'll do is we'll
Not the
put in-
GCI calculator.
No, it's a different one. It's the Career Growth Initiative.
it.
And your gross commission income is going to come into play. So what happens is we're gonna think like business people, and we're gonna focus on profit, not just volume and units. So as we walk through this calculator, it will not only help us hit our goals next year, it'll show us the exact activities that we have to engage in to hit our goals. So when
That's
we walk,
awesome.
yeah, when we walk through this, and you think about that administrative person we're talking about, your average commission is $9,000. What would you pay that full-time administrative person?
Probably about 40, 45,000.
Okay, great. So to make an additional 40, 45,000 in your profit in order to cover the cost of that person, or we could put that person's as an expense right here in this line item, and it'll show us exactly what we have to do. So let's just walk through this and see what this looks like. Let me do a couple numbers here.
Okay.
And so based on your average commission and all the numbers that you've given me, it looks like we need to do another 6.5 transactions per year to cover the cost
Okay,
of that
with
assistant.
expenses and
Yeah.
everything and taxes.
And if you had a full-time administrative assistant, would you be doing more transactions, do you
For
think?
sure.
Yeah.
I'd be doing way more than
How many more?
7. Probably at least 20, I'd say.
Okay, and more importantly, based on your comment earlier, it's the time you give back. Is that
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yeah, not about the money.
So does that ease a little bit of your concern?
Yeah, I mean, it still makes me nervous to think about managing that person on a day-to-day basis and then me having to be responsible for them.
Yeah. What if we had a training and a system and model that taught you how to train that person for the first 90 days?
Wow, you guys have everything.
Well, I don't know if we have everything, but we have the right things.
Okay.
Yeah. So would that be
That would
helpful to
help.
you?
Yeah,
Would
that
that ease your stress a little bit around that?
Yeah, it would
Okay.
ease my stress.
So if you were in an environment where every top producer had an admin and you saw that working relationship, what we have is we have a collective intellect. We have an admin mastermind. They meet once a month and they share best practices on how to support their agents and help them drive their businesses even higher.
Wow, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Okay, so with all of that said, do you think that you would consider hiring an admin?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, that seems more doable when you break it down like that.
All right, so what were your ahas? What did you see in the video? Go ahead and show us on Slido as we come back to our screen here. What did you see? What was your aha there? What did you like? What did you not like? What did you get out of that? Solutions, yes, love that. But solutions, leverage, solutions specifically designed to address her issue. Now, what's interesting about that is I want you to think about the questions that we ask, because even in the action plan, what happens is we're asking questions to get her to discover, and when we do that, we want her to get very specific. So if you notice, George, I'm going to come in a close-up again. If you notice, see if we can hit this page here. Look at this zoom, George. You're amazing. So if you notice, Wendy right now is in level 1, as most agents are. So getting them to understand and think like a business person, that they need to hire that first administrative person at level 2 is a daunting task sometimes. But as you're hearing and seeing with Wendy, you understand that if she had leverage in her life, she would get the most important thing back, which is time with her family. Now, here's where it gets really important. When you ask the question, if you had, in this case, an administrative person, if you had an environment where top agents were everywhere and you could learn from them, if you had better technology, if you had better training, whatever the question is, the if you had, follow that up and get really specific. So if you had a better environment, could you sell more houses? With Wendy, if you had an administrative person, could you sell more houses? And she said, oh yeah, absolutely. Then let's get specific. So if you watch, what happens is we say, well, how many more houses? We're quantifying it for her, because later in the process, when we go to close, we're going to remind her, look, wouldn't it be great to have 20 more deals a year and have more time with your family, more importantly? So we don't have everything, we have the right things. Yeah, I'd write that one down. Write that one down. Yeah, 14 more transactions in profit. Absolutely, good stuff. Yeah, we have the right things. Get them to discover their potential. Get them to think differently. This is another thing that I find is, and again, no disrespect to any of our competitors, they just think differently. We're not thinking the same way. We're thinking abundantly. We want to see the best out of everyone. And by the way, the title of this book is Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Someone who nets $1 million a year selling real estate. So anyone who's not doing that can learn from this book. Not about the money, it's about time, absolutely. And here's the crazy thing. You all have discovered this. It's easier to do $20 million worth of real estate in this business than it is to do 2. Now, I want you to think about that. And that's a statement you can use in your marketplace and adjust for your dollars. It's easier to do $20 million in real estate than it is to do 2. Why? Because when you do $2 million of real estate and real estate sales, you're doing everything yourself, right? By the time you build a business that kicks out 20 million, you have tons of leverage around you. So that's the action plan. Any questions about the action plan? These are very short snippets, right? The action plan's probably 15, 20 minutes of your time. So you've got 25, 30 minutes of a needs analysis. You've got 15, 20 minutes, 25 minutes sometimes action plan, and then we're going to go in for the close. What questions do you have so far about either the needs analysis or the action plan? Any questions? And you can raise your digital hand if you like, if you actually want to interact with me. I can see all of your amazing faces. So if you like to interact, you're welcome to talk to me as well.
One thing I would add, Mark, while they're typing in their questions, I love that line, we don't have everything, we have the right things. And I think along with that, there's this trap that team leaders can fall into because Keller Williams has so many things that we feel we have to master all of them and present all of them. I hear team leaders joke about it being like a buffet at a restaurant and trying to get everybody to try every little bit of everything that's available. And that's not how human beings operate. Yeah. So we should just let ourselves off the hook as team leaders and focus on the right things for that person. And I think that video demonstrated that clearly. It's really about knowing what's in your tool belt and picking out the right piece at the right time, not giving them everything that you might have.
You bring up an amazing point, JP, and from a team leader perspective, from a leader perspective, which you all are in this company, we do need to have a surface level understanding of all the things that we provide. And I will tell you, I sat in a meeting yesterday and I'm learning a bunch of new things that we have. It's never ending. And every time I think I have a great idea, JP, that I'm gonna give to the entire company, I realize they've already created it. But what happens, you do have to have a surface level understanding of all the things that we have. And at the end of the day, if you focus just on them and you know that there's only going to be 4 major objection categories, then for me, I had to break it down for the exact reasons that you're saying. I have to break it down so that I can have a very simple go-to action plan every time. And so those things are the time, money, leverage, opportunity discussions. So yes, we do have a lot of different things, and one of the traps, you're right, that we do fall into is we want to show everything that we have. And I think it just confuses, befuddles, and it causes people. I want you to watch as we go into the close video. I want you to listen for the whine, right? Not the good Italian kind, but I want you to listen for the whine. And we're having fun with Wendy, but this is a real life thing with top recruits. When people get uncomfortable, what you've done is you've created a gap. You've created a very clear action plan that they know is going to work for them, and they're starting to realize, uh-oh, I think I came over here to meet this nice person, Now I'm feeling like I might need to join, and you can start to hear when I say listen for the whine, we're having fun, but I want you to listen for the I don't know, I love my broker, I do. I want you to listen for the objection whine, right? We'll have some fun. And when you hear that whine, you've got to create what we call a pattern interrupt. And you're going to see an example of that. I want you to watch for that and see if you can identify it. And then go ahead, if you have questions, just send them in. But anytime you hear the objections resurface, think about where we are in the process. I know it's kind of hard to teach this way. I'd love to just do an entire appointment in front of you so you can watch the progression, but it's important to re-note that we've spent time on the needs analysis. We've spent 25 minutes with this person learning all the challenges they have in their business. We've spent another 15 or 20 minutes talking about how Keller Williams, our office, and I can help this top agent eliminate those pains in her business. Then we're going to go in for the close. So when you go in for the close, and you'll hear the question in a minute, when you go in for the close, you're going to get the natural reaction of resistance to change, right? Any top agent, they didn't get to be a top agent by changing all the time. They're identifying their success with the company they're with or with the people they're around or whatever, and it's all they know. And so, so I want you to listen for that. And we'll come back and do this after. My tech skills, Dawn, how are they doing today? We doing good? Killing it. All right, so we're going into the close. George, here we go, video close. And post your ahas as we go, please.
So Wendy, we've spent a lot of time talking about the environment you're currently in and the hours that you're working, all those good things. And then we spent some time talking about the environment that you see around you. So let me ask you, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you're never going to make a change, you're going to stay in that environment, and 10, I need to get the paperwork out of my drawer because you're signing up today, where would you rate yourself?
Well, Mark, I mean, I really appreciate the conversation today and appreciate all the time you spent with me. And I really did learn a lot from our conversation, but I'm probably still at like a 7.
7?
Yeah.
Okay, so what would it take to get you to an 8, 9, or 10? What do you think?
Well, I'm working so much already. So when I think about having to make the transition and do all that stuff over again, and the signs and the business cards and just going through all of that, I mean, I already told you I'm working 80 hours a week already. So I don't know how I would do it.
So how do we break the cycle?
What do you mean?
I mean, if you had an assistant right now, they would be doing all those things for the transition, right?
Well, yeah, I guess so.
So what's going to change in your world if you don't change your world?
Well, I don't know. I mean, yeah, that's a good point.
So can I be completely honest with you?
Okay.
Okay, one of the things that I see a lot in this industry is what you're doing is the only path agents know. And so one of the liberating feelings is when you come to an environment like this and you see agents who have that help, that leverage, and you see them get their lives back. And honestly, I truly care about our agents, and I want to see you get your life back.
Well, I'd love to maybe meet with a few of those and kind of see what they're going through and what that transition looked like for them.
So that might take you to an 8, 9, or 10?
Yeah, that would take me up to an 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I love you're tough. I like it. That's great. And you mentioned the transition and the signs and the cards and all those things, right? So would it surprise you to know that we have a system and a model to follow and a transition plan that would help you with all those things?
Oh, I guess it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, we're the company of systems and models, right?
You guys have everything.
I love it. Okay, great. Okay, wonderful. So I'll set up a time maybe tomorrow at 9 o'clock for you to meet with a couple of our agents. Is that good?
Yeah, I think that's okay.
Okay, fantastic. And you mentioned in your current environment, there's a lot of agents operating just like you are today. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a few.
Okay. And you rate yourself a 7. Do you know any 10s in your current environment?
Yeah, I might know somebody.
Okay. Well, we'll work on that as you transition over.
Okay.
We'll work on getting some other people over.
Okay, sounds great. Okay, thanks, Mark.
Appreciate you.
All right, so when we teach this live, I like to play this video twice. So I'm going to ask you to watch this video again after we have a short, brief discussion. But I'd love to hear your ahas from that video. There's a lot of design in that. Did you hear the whine? Did you hear the whine? I don't know, signs and cards and all that, and we're having fun with Wendy, but that's a real life thing. And what that is the objection whine. That's the, uh-oh, change is about to happen. I'm going to resist. We've had a great meeting, but I don't want to change. And so what was the pattern interrupt? Someone nailed it. Mandy nailed it. How do we break the cycle? Right? Now, there's a statement I make in that video that I don't like, just to be transparent. I don't like the question, can I be honest with you? Because it infers that I wasn't being honest before. So if I could redo that, I would take that out. But what I would tell you is, if you can throw a pattern interrupt into the middle of the whine, did you notice? I got uncomfortable watching that video, and I've watched it 100 times. Did you notice how uncomfortable Wendy got when we got real? And the question was, what's going to change in your world if you don't change your world? Right? And I want you to watch that again. I just want you to feel how she's doing. So difficult to make the transfer. Yep, you're right, Julian. What is going to change the world? Love that. Good job, Patrick. Yeah, that's a huge one. Here's the other thing. Master the 1 to 10 conversation. It sounds very elementary, and at the end of the day, when I sit with team leaders in recruiting appointments and observe what they do, most of them don't go for the close. Most of them say, Robert, it's been great talking to you today. Let's follow up if you have any questions. And I think the reason for that is we don't like rejection. We don't want to hear that people don't want to join us, and so we don't ask. I take the opposite approach. I want to know exactly where we stand. If I were to coach you on something more today, something we've added to this script, if on a scale of 1 to 10, 1, you're never making a change, which is silly because we've spent 45 minutes talking about all the changes they need to make, right? So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you're never going to make a change, 10, you need to sign the paperwork today, and I would add, and 7's not an option, where would you rate yourself? Because 7 is the safe play, right? And I forget who gave this to me. I think it was Matt Teeter, somebody like that, who said, throw that in there, because now that forces them to go 6 or 8, and that gives you a better idea of where they are. Great closing of the conversation. Yeah. And so there was one more hidden comment in there. There was a couple of hidden comments that I want you to pay attention to. One of them is when I talk about truly caring about our agents. So I'm talking about her, and I'm saying, you know what, I truly care about our agents. What have I just planted? What seed have I just planted in Wendy's mind in that conversation? Right? I really care about our agents. The second one, and probably the most powerful thing you can do with the top agent, is what we call the takeaway close. So did you notice I was already setting her up to either build her growth share or to miss out on the wonderful thing it is to be a Keller Williams agent? And so what happens is I asked her, okay, so you rated yourself a 7. Do you know any 10s over at your office, right? I'm lead generating with my recruit in that moment. Already recruiting from her, super close. Yeah, I love that. All right, so please, 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 I know it sounds silly, but I love to play this video twice because Wendy does such a great job, and it's so powerful. You have to understand that Wendy is a top agent with Keller Williams. Her husband co-wrote the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. We're clearly acting in this video. We're role playing, and it gets very real on camera. So let's do this one more time. George, we're coming right back to the video. Here we go.
So Wendy, we've spent a lot of time talking about the environment you're currently in and the hours that you're working, all those good things. And then we've spent some time talking about the environment that you see around you. So let me ask you, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you're never gonna make a change, you're gonna stay in that environment, and 10, I need to get the paperwork out of my drawer because you're signing up today, where would you rate yourself?
Well, Mark, I mean, I really appreciate the conversation today and appreciate all the time you spent with me. And I really did learn a lot from our conversation, but I'm probably still at like a 7.
7?
Yeah.
Okay, so what would it take to get you to an 8, 9, or 10? What do you think?
Well, I'm working so much already. So when I think about having to make the transition and do all that stuff over again, and the signs and the business cards and just going through all of that, I mean, I already told you I'm working 80 hours a week already. So I don't know how I would do it.
So how do we break the cycle?
What do you mean?
I mean, if you had an assistant right now, they would be doing all those things for the transition, right?
Well, yeah, I guess
So
so.
what's going to change in your world if you don't change your world?
Well, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's a good point.
So can I be completely honest with you?
Okay.
Okay, one of the things that I see a lot in this industry is what you're doing is the only path agents know. And so one of the liberating feelings is when you come to an environment like this and you see agents who have that help, that leverage, and you see them get their lives back. And honestly, I truly care about our agents and I want to see you get your life back.
Well, I'd love to maybe meet with a few of those and kind of see what they're
Great.
going through and what that transition looked like for them.
So that might take you to an 8, 9, or 10?
Yeah, that would take me up to an 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I love you're tough. I like it. That's great. And you mentioned the transition and the signs and the cards and all those things, right? So would it surprise you to know that we have a system and a model to follow and a transition plan that would help you with all those things?
Oh, I guess it doesn't surprise me.
We're the company
right?
of systems and models,
right?
right?
You guys have
Okay.
everything.
I love it. Okay, great. Okay, wonderful. So I'll set up a time maybe tomorrow at 9 o'clock for you to meet with a couple of our agents. Is that good?
Yeah, I think that's okay.
Okay, fantastic. And you mentioned in your current environment, there's a lot of agents operating just like you are today. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a few.
Okay. And you rate yourself as 7. Do you know any 10s in your current environment?
Yeah, I might know somebody.
Okay. Well, we'll work on that as you transition over.
Okay.
We'll work on getting some other people over.
Okay, sounds great. Okay, thanks, Mark.
Appreciate you.
All right. So also what you saw there was by the way, we'll work on that as we transition you over. What example of a close is that? That's a presumptive soft close, right? So as we transition you over, she hasn't said she's coming over yet, but a couple questions here in the moment. Do you know, in fact, their KPA? She's already made. Yes, we've already done the KPA before this conversation. Do you have some examples of transition? Yes, on the TL Fundamentals page on Facebook, there's a whole mega agent transition plan. Real quick on that, it's 2 pages single spaced. It looks daunting for a reason. We want to scare them and then solve their problem. So when we present the transition plan, we say, here's all the things you need to think about to make a move, and they go, oh, and here's the cool thing, we got everything covered for you. We want them to know we are working for them.
And we included that in their packets as well.
Oh, and you have that in your packets as well. Look at that, Robert, you're on it. I love it. So the reason I like to play that video twice is because there's a lot of really good things in there, not because I'm involved in it, but because I've been taught to do it that way. So if, JP, is it possible to get these videos out to everyone where they could practice these things? Can we do that?
I'm sure they're on our regional,
JP's got a
Microphone.
microphone. Here you go.
I'm in the redundant
turntables and a
class.
microphone.
Our KW Worldwide regions have their KW Connect site, which will have these videos, and then we'll put them in along with your video of this presentation in the Google Drive link that we'll send out to all the regions as well. So any team leaders, if you want to get access to those materials, work with your regions, and they'll provide them to you directly.
Wonderful. And I would practice and script and role play and all those things and get a partner and do this. The better you get at this conversation and the close, the more successful you're going to be. So a couple more things. When you ask a pattern interrupt question, right, if you notice there was deep tension there when we said if you don't change your world, if you don't change your world, what's going to change in your world, right? And then you have to be quiet. And this is a hard thing for team leaders. It's a hard thing for me. And so when you ask a question and you know they're really thinking and digging deep, the next person to talk usually loses in negotiation. So you've got to ask the tough question and you got to be quiet. It's an interesting little side note. So any other questions? Can I make a personal observation as opposed to, yeah, love that. Can I make a personal observation? That's much better, Elizabeth. Thank you for that. From Bermuda, out in the middle of the ocean. Love that. All right, any other ahas, any questions around the needs analysis, action plan, or close? We went very quickly. This is something that I would love for you to practice and get better at. This is part of your skills and your tool belt that's going to help you succeed at a higher level. Any other questions or ahas?
Mark, I'd love to share an idea that Robert gave me this morning in this video, really, and you're kind of giving it to me again with the idea of them watching this video. I would argue, especially for new team leaders, I would find an accountability partner in my market center, ideally the OP or maybe another team leader that I'm friendly with, and I would literally copy this video in a real life role play with each other and just practice it along with the scripts that are in the packet. But you have this video, it's an excellent example of real objections that agents give. And I think Wendy and you did a wonderful job. And you can, with a role play partner, you could do that and replicate it in a live role play and just practice that over and over and over again so that you're not practicing with live recruits. You're actually just executing what you've already practiced.
Yeah.
But we'll talk more about that at the end of today's session.
I love that idea. In fact, when I interview team leaders, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for their skill set. So the more you can practice this is not a natural thing that you're just taught in life, right? This is something you have to be very specific about. If you notice, a lot of things that we do are very purposeful. So let's go into the power walk. What if she said 6? Okay, before we go there, question just came up. What if she said she was a 6? What do you do then? It really doesn't matter what number she comes up with. If it's a 6, I feel like I haven't really done a great job in the appointment. But keep in mind, we've spent 45 minutes together discovering what her issues are and coming up with what we know are great plans to solve those, getting her agreement along the way. It's very rare that someone says they're a 6, but if they did, I would say, great, what does it take to make you a 7 or an 8? And what questions can I answer for you? What did I miss? It's all about her. You're in the doctor's role. Yep, find her pain and prescribe the medicine. That's very good. Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. Yeah, well, think about it. I love that analogy. Let's go deeper on that. Let's have some fun with that. Imagine if you walked into a doctor and they said, oh my gosh, you have a cold. I woke up this morning a little stuffy, and if I walked in the doctor today and he said, you know what, your arm's broken, right? He wouldn't know unless he asked me questions. Where does it hurt? How are you feeling? What's going on, right? He has to ask probing questions at the doctor's office. Based on my responses and his training, he's going to prescribe something to go further on that. So that's exactly what you're doing. Love that. Any other questions? Any other ahas? Okay.
Mark, I'll just add one thing on the doctor's piece. To do that, and I'll quote Diana Kokoska, would be malpractice. You would literally be breaking the law as a doctor to do that. So I think as professionals, as team leaders, we have to think of ourselves as professionals. And that would be a violation of our role. And so the opposite is also true. We are professionals, we are doctors, and we should take confidence in that. Your job is not to sell Keller Williams. You're not a salesperson. You're a coach and a consultant to help grow agents' businesses. So as a professional, it's okay to ask them to come to your office. It's okay to say, I'd like to learn more about your business. You have if you just assume that responsibility, you'd be amazed how people will respond to it and go, oh, well, this is what a consultant does. So I'm in the experience of being consulted, not in the experience of being sold something. And it changes the relationship.
That's brilliant, JP. So let's go back and let's understand where we are in this whole process, and let's talk about the trap that most new team leaders fall into. We get into the phone trap, right? When we go all the way back to lead generating for someone to meet with us, the reason that script is that's exactly why we need to meet is because we don't want to give too much over the phone. It would be malpractice. We don't know anything about these. In fact, imagine calling someone for the first time and saying, Keller Williams is great. We don't know if Keller Williams is great yet. We don't know what their issue is, right? So we have to think differently. If you sell too much over the phone, you never get that appointment. And if you sell too much in the appointment, you never get the close. And so it's all about them, and you're exactly right. It would be malpractice to practice on those people. So practice on your own time. My OP used to say, practice on your time, play on my time. So the power walk, what is the power walk? First of all, in my world as an OP, it doesn't count as an appointment unless the person's in the office. I want them to feel the energy and excitement of the office. If the recruit is $8 million or higher, you can pick your own criteria. I will often have an ALC member in the lobby waiting when that person comes in the door. Now, I want to get into some of the details a little bit, and then you can design some of these things. You can find some of these tools on TL Fundamentals on Facebook. But I want you to think about the environment. So we've had a great conversation. We've had the recruit come in. They filled out information. Let me walk you through the entire environment one more time. The recruit comes in at their allotted time. It's going to be either 12:32 or 3:30. That makes it easy because we built our calendar. And what happens is the director of first impressions hands them a clipboard, JP, doctor style, right? And it's got a one-page sheet of information for them to fill out about themselves. So we start, the very first process is about them. So, and that usually takes 2 minutes. It's not really a big long time. I know they're in the lobby. My director of first impressions is texting me. And so I'll come out, and it's hard to do on screen here, but I always come out with great energy, right? Not weird energy, I think, but great energy. So I'll come out, a big smile on my face. Oh my gosh, Robert, it's so nice to meet you. How are you doing? Come on back with me. And they'll hand me the clipboard. We'll go into my office, which is right off the front desk area. And that clipboard, that piece of paper, is where I'm going to put some of my notes. And think about why that's important. After the appointment, we've done the needs analysis, we've done the action plan, we've done the close, the recruits either 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever they are. Then we're going to go out and I'm going to say, Robert or Wendy, would you like to go to our office? I'd love to show you some things. And they always say yes. And so as I walk out of my office with the recruit, I'm handing the needs analysis, excuse me, plus that one-page document to our director of first impressions. Now, I have a little fun thing that I do that I've created with my director of first impressions. And what I'll do is when I walk out, her name's Nikki. When I walk out to start the power walk, I will say, hey, this is Nikki. Did you meet Nikki? And I'll point. Okay. Hey, did you meet Nikki? This is hard to do on screen, Robert. So watch closely. I'll say, hey, Nikki. Hey, did you meet Robert? Hey, Nikki. Right? Or I'll say, hey, Nikki. Hey, Nikki. How are you, Nikki? This is Robert. Hi. Or I'll say, hey, Nikki. How are you? Nice to see you. This is Robert. Hey, this is Nikki. Or I'll say, hey, Nikki. How are you? Nice to see you. This is Robert. Now, I know it's hard to see on screen, but what I've just done is I've given Nikki the understanding that the pain point for my recruit is either a time, money, leverage, or opportunity. Hey, Nikki, how you doing, right? And so what Nikki starts doing while we're on the power walk is creating a 2-page action plan for this recruit based on everything that we talked about. Now, Nikki was not in the room. Our director of first impressions was not in the room for the appointment, and yet she's going to create a physical on 2 really nice high gloss pieces of paper, a personalized action plan for that recruit. So by the time we're back from the power walk, she'll hand that to the recruit and say, here, this is for you to take home to think about what we talked about today. Now here's why that's important. And if you have any questions on that, let me know, because we went fast over that, and that's something that it's just another little value add. Here's why that's important. We're salespeople in real estate. And what happens is when we leave an appointment, we tend to forget about that and focus on the next thing. So if I've had an appointment at 12:30 or 2 or 3:30, and that agent leaves, no matter how that conversation goes, that agent leaves, goes home to their families, talks about their day, etc. If they've got nothing to take with them based on their conversation, they're not going to remember everything we talked about. They're going to say, yeah, I had a really interesting meeting today. Yeah, I was kind of, I don't know. And then they'll go into their wine, right, at home. Different kind of wine, maybe. They'll go into their wine and they'll say to their spouse, I don't know, I like my broker, and all the objections will come back up. And so once that happens, it's hard to re-engage that person. However, if they have a really cool action plan that has their name on it, they're going to go home and the spouse is going to say, how was your day? And they're going to say, oh my gosh, I had this really cool appointment. And I don't know, it's got me thinking. And look what they created on the fly. This was amazing. It's got my name on it. This is all the things. By the way, on that action plan that they take home with them, the only things on that action plan are things that are indigenous to you or your market center and Keller Williams, right? The only way that they're going to be able to get all those things is if they're in business with you. We don't want to give them an action plan that teaches them how to go build their business, whether they're with us or not. So a little different.
We put the sample action plan in their packet as well, so they can look at it. Yep.
This is amazing.
There you go.
You're amazing, Robert.
And Mark, just so I'm clear, because it was really powerful, you're really just pointing to the front desk or director of first impressions, either a 1, 2, 3, or 4 with your hand,
Yep.
so she knows in a subtle way what to do with that action plan.
And she'll usually reply back with the same number so that I
She
confirm
knows.
she got, yeah. Because one time we did that and she got the wrong one, and as I was reading it, I was like, you know what, I'm going to make a couple changes to this, and then we'll, but it's so powerful when that recruit says, oh my gosh, how in the world? Like, it's fascinating. And then what happens when they join you later and they figure out your system? They're like, ah, that's what you did to me. It was great. Yeah.
I think our leaders go and our market centers go from good to great when they understand the concept of systems and models. That saves maybe even just a little bit of time, but over time, that saves you and Nikki a lot of back and forth that makes you more efficient, and that's how you start to see these numbers grow at a market center.
You know what?
Performing at a high level.
There's so many benefits, JP, because I'll tell you, if someone makes the horrible decision not to join us after all of this, and I call them back a couple months later, no matter what their business is doing, I have their action plan created on my laptop, and I can say, so Robert, I know we talked a couple months ago, have you implemented this? And Robert's gonna say what? No, I haven't got around to it, etc. And that's gonna open the door for another conversation. So it's part of our follow-up system, our 23-point follow-up system. So let's go through the power walk. One of the things, there's 4 examples of things that we do, depending on how your office is laid out. Mine's kind of a big circle. And so what we do after I walk out and say hi to Nikki, who's waiting for me on purpose, by the way, she knows about when I'm gonna be done with my appointment, and she's waiting on me because she's an integral part of this conversation. If that's too technical or whatever, it's no big deal. You can pre-plan all of these action plans because you know what objections are gonna come up. And so if you wanted to, you could just say, here's a action plan for you to get more time back in your business, and you could pre-print those or whatever you wanted to. But what we do is we go out of my office, and the first thing we come to after our copiers and all those things, our office supplies, is our big growth share check. In our world, it's a profit share check. And so I stop at that and I talk about, we've got the Keller experience, we've got, Keller Williams stuff everywhere. And I'll stop and talk a little bit about our profit share and where that comes from. And in our market center right now, that's $80,000 a month. It's a awesome value add. So we'll stop and talk a little bit about that. We'll tie that back into that conversation about who might be a 10 in your office, because we're going to show them not only can we help them with their challenges, but we can help the other people they work with as well. Introduce them to a top agent. Now, here's the fun thing. We have 434 agents in our office. Our top agents don't know if I'm walking in the halls with one of our agents or a recruit, and so what happens is I will set it up before the fact. If this is a top agent, I'll have some of my top agents around the office, one at the beginning of the appointment, especially if they know each other, but I will walk the recruit into different offices, and my top agents already know this is a recruiting power walk. And so they're on high alert, they're so excited, and they greet the person warmly, etc. I also want to introduce this person to my key staff. Remember, your staff will make or break you, and I want to set the tone early on with this recruit that this is my staff, they're the most important people in my world, they're amazing at what they do, and they're going to help you at a high level. I'm going to show them our training room, because remember, if you get a chance, and many of you came from our competitors, training means something different in our company. Right? We have cool technology in our training room. We have a big training room. It's clearly a beat up, used, scarred training room because we use it all the time, every day. And so it's a big part of our value proposition. So we're really going to focus on that training room. And then we're going to come back to the front desk and give them a personalized action plan. So that's a power walk. Any questions, comments, concerns? Yeah, Director of First Impression is the person who works at your front desk. Yes. Yes. Any questions? The immediate personalized action plan, yep. Love it. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Isn't that fun? It makes it fun. You got to have fun.
There was a question, Mark, there was a question that came in from Jonathan that said, what would you suggest to help in...
Mike?
I'm
JP,
on.
Mike.
I'm on.
JP's on.
Yep, I'm on. What would you suggest to help in shifting our mindset from selling to consulting as team leaders?
So that's a great question. So how do we move from selling to consulting? First of all, you have to understand and believe that we have the best widget. I mean, I believe that there is no better place than Keller Williams. People ask me all the time, if Keller Williams is so great, we talked about this the other day, if Keller Williams is so great, why would anybody ever leave? And it's because we have people here. There's people involved, right? And we joke about some people just don't get along. But the reality is, if you believe in what you do and you believe in the value proposition that we deliver, there is no better place to operate a real estate sales business than Keller Williams. So when I take that tact, I honestly don't care if that recruit joins our company or not today. I'm going to be around. Our office is going to be around. We have the best thing going. We're the #1 office in our marketplace. I think they need to qualify. And this goes back, JP, to when you're actually sourcing the recruit and you're calling recruits, right? And people will give you the objection. I forget who brought it up, but I don't want to transfer. If this is about transferring, I'm not. You know what? I don't even know if we're a fit. When you tell a top agent you don't know if they're a fit for your firm, ooh, that's fun. And I'm a little ornery sometimes, so I like to have fun with people like that. I've been hung up on by more $1 million producers in this business than anybody I know. It's okay. It's part of the deal. But when you truly understand your value proposition and you truly love the company you work for and you understand how great it is, then you automatically move to consulting. You know, we already know we have the best tools, training, systems, tech, all that stuff. And so I don't want to be too funny here, but if you don't join us, it's your loss, right? So I'm going to consult you to get better. Whether you join us or not, you're going to get better. And that's going to help all of us get better. Does that help?
Absolutely.
Cool. Any other questions? Can you share the four? Yes. So anything that we talk about in this course is going to be on that TL Fundamentals page on Facebook, right? So yes, all the action plans are on there. In fact, we've now consolidated those 4 action plans into 2 because time and leverage are the same thing and money and opportunity are the same thing. So just to make it more simple, now we have a 1 or a 2, right? JP?
There was that question about NLP reframing, if you're using that. That's pretty nuanced and sophisticated. Is there a resource you'd recommend if somebody wants to learn more about NLP? Because I know that's popular in coaching.
It is, and I understand that Worldwide may not have some of the same trainings or resources around that, but every country has that. And be careful what you do on the internet, but there's a lot of great stuff on the internet. Where most of this came from was my study of positive psychology that Diana Kokoska kind of had me embark upon, and the study of Max Seligman. You can study him, etc. But the neuro-linguistic programming and the embedded commands and the closes and the takeaways and the challenges and all those things, those are learned over time. But I'm sure you can find some resources there. Let me give you a book suggestion. And I can't remember that. Chris Voss is the author. It's called Never Split the Difference. And it's all about, he was a hostage negotiator for the FBI, JP. And so this book is one of my favorite books for team leaders because it is, when you're a hostage negotiator, you can't split the difference. You can't say, well, give me one of the hostages and take the other one. So what happens is he's got a lot of great NLP in that book. And obviously, if I can be a resource, if we can help at all, we can put some things up on the TL Fundamentals page. We might do some videos on that or some other fun things. But yeah, those are more nuanced and those are more experience-based. And you'll get better at those over time. I would have you watch these videos until you get that down. Good stuff.
There's plenty of videos and content out there on YouTube and online that Diana Kokoska and other coaches that are familiar with NLP have put out. So I think, again, be careful on the internet, but there's a lot of great content out there, that, especially from Keller Williams and MAPS.
Our internet's pretty cool. Our intranet's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's trusted if it's from Keller Williams. So let's briefly touch on the transition plan. The transition plan is something that we started out taking 4 weeks to complete, and we've condensed that down to 2. We converted, right now in our pipeline, we have $200 million worth of producers. There's like 16 cappers coming over. It's a big deal. And to transition all those people without a system or a plan is going to be a huge challenge. Luckily, we have a very simple transition plan to follow. Again, it's 2 pages, single-spaced, etc. But we're going to transfer something like 100 listings. And if we can transfer that, you can transfer anybody you're recruiting, right? So follow that transition plan. That's in your packet, Robert. The transition plan's in your packet. And so the follow-up, the 23-step follow-up plan is in your packet as well. All right, so let's go back to our calendar. Ooh, I love how this goes. We've got a few minutes left, and I want to save some time at the end for any ahas. I've got to go here in a little bit. Any ahas or questions I can help with? Let's go back to our calendar, and let's think about what our lives look like as a team leader. Now, this is the team leader calendar. Everybody affects this calendar. The entire team is there to make sure this calendar is implemented because the team leader grows the office. The team leader grows everyone's opportunities, including the region, including the country, including everyone, right? And so we go back to our calendar. I want you to imagine, this is team leader fundamentals, I want you to imagine running this calendar at an extremely boring level. And I mean super boring. And by the way, it's not that boring. It's just really exciting. Because what comes with that and that success and recruiting cappers is much, much more opportunity for everyone around you. So we've got our staff meetings in the morning. We understand that our staff will make or break us. We're pouring into our staff. We've got our lead generation time. We're collecting as many phone numbers and contacts and emails and whatever we can from recruits. We're lead generating to our vendors, to our ALC, to our agents. We've got an hour built in for follow-up on any leads that come in. We've got our lunch break, and we've got our 3 openings for recruiting appointments that we're only going to fill 6 or 8 of a month, and the rest are going to go to ALC meetings, follow-up, etc. So, and then on Fridays, what we're doing is we're consulting our top 20%, and we're training the whole market center. So that's kind of a recap on our weekly training, team leader training calendar. So this would be a really good place. Someone says, who is the growth committee in your office? So here's what's interesting. We have caused our top agents to be our growth committee. Now, what does that mean? I want to share with you some vision casting. We have some time for this. Let me share with you, George, I'm going to come over to my sheet here. This is some vision casting. Whether you're a team leader, OP, whatever the role is, I want you to think about vision casting. And since you all have growth share, I want you to imagine what it would be like if your top agents never had to pay you a cap again. And I want to do this exercise, and I'm just going to show you how this works. A real life example. These are not the lottery numbers, so don't confuse that with that. What this is when I went to my 7th market in 7 years, what I found was every new market could do with a little bit of vision casting. And so I told the agents there, we're going to build the #1 office. Remember our questions, if I'm going to build the #1 office, then who do I need to be in business with? Who do I need to avoid being in business with, etc. So we're going to build the #1 office in our board, and when that happens, if you're part of that growth on our growth committee, I'm going to get you to a point with profit share where you don't have to pay a cap ever again. And not everybody bought in, right? But I had one person, a top agent, and she said, I'm all in. And what I did is I had her set aside 2 time slots for recruiting appointments. I went and called the agents and offered consulting, put them in front of our top agent, and started building her profit share. So in 2014, the end of 2014, there were 0 agents in our office whose profit share or growth share was more than their cap. Now here's the cool thing about growth share. There's no cap on it. With profit share, we only collect so much money and we share on that amount of money. We cap what we charge our agents, right? With growth share, it's a percentage of their actual commissions. So there's no cap on it. So back to this. So in 2014, we had 0 people cover their cap with profit or growth share. 2015, she did it because we built her profit share that entire year. 2016, she was the only person who did it. Look how long this took us, right? But what happened is other people started paying attention and said, I want to do that too. So I started setting appointments and bringing other top agents in. 2017, we had 6 people make more than $20,000 in profit share, which was their cap. 18, we had 20 people in our office make more than their cap. This year, we're on pace for 32 of our agents to make more than their cap, and our 2020 vision, this is vision casting, is that our top 50 agents never have to pay a cap again. Now that's a powerful vision to cast, and one of the challenges you may have is that may look like it's way too far away, right? When we started this, there weren't a lot of people even close to $20,000 a year in profit share. You have to be purposeful with it. But what you could do with so what happens is these people have become my growth committee. Right? The entire market center is about building profit share. We have a goal of hitting $1 million this year in profit share for that one office, and we're super excited about that. So, sorry, that was a long answer to your short question. I apologize. What would you suggest to help in shifting our minds? Oh, we did that one. Okay. Anytime you can answer is based on the ideal training calendar. Okay, so ideal training calendar for a market center. I'm going to stick with core classes like Ignite. Here's some training that I'll just tell you. One of my roles here is I'm the head of the Technology Adoption and Training Task Force, and so I'm digging into all of our training. We're rewriting a lot of training, and we got lots of work to do on that, right? And one of the things I'm finding is one of the areas of opportunity, I did good there, is that in our new agent training, we don't do a lot of really core basic things like here's how you actually open a lockbox, right? And I never thought of this until a new agent brought it up to me. We're talking about how to build a database and all the things that are going to cause you to sell real estate, but you know what? Do you know there's a way to put a sign in a yard, like an actual way? Like if the ground is frozen, there's a certain way. Like we don't teach that, right? So Ignite, those type of things. But I would have some kind of onboarding training. Just go as basic as you can and say, if I was brand new, what would I need to know? But over the course of every quarter or so, I would be doing Ignite. And I know we've got some amazing training there. So that's what it would look like. Here's the other thing I want to tell you on training. Build your training calendar so that your top agents want to attend. One of the mistakes we make is we build a training calendar for new agents, and then all the agents think training is just for new people. Training is for everybody. We're all in training. You're all in training today, right? We're always training. We're always getting better. We're learning based. If you build your training to the top, it will benefit everybody. If you build your training to the bottom, it won't benefit everybody. So that would be training calendar. All right, JP, you ready to transition?
Yeah. I wanted to wrap up with one question that comes up a lot for us is that concept of masterminding. How much, when we're talking about a training calendar, would you include masterminding with especially your top agents? Is that very common, or is that less frequent than some of the other training components?
So in the beginning, I loved masterminding, right? I love collaboration, all those things. Here's what I found. It depends on who you're masterminding with. You have to be very careful. What I see happen is a bunch of brand new team leaders decide that, hey, we're going to mastermind together. And so we're going to teach each other all the ways to be mediocre in the role. And so, and that's kind of lighthearted, and yet it's true. So if you're going to mastermind, you need to be around people who are doing it at a higher level than you. Stretch up. When you get there, stretch up, stretch up. So I love masterminding. We do a top agent mastermind in our office once a month. And so it is the top minds, and we go over our language of real estate. We go over all those core things. Masterminding is huge. And I would mastermind with people outside of your area, but always people who are doing it at a high level. And that's my thought on
Awesome.
that. Yep.
One last question that comes in a lot, because you mentioned it at the end about the onboarding and the packet they have. At what size of market center by agent count would you recommend somebody move from having the director of first impressions run the onboarding and some of those administrative duties to having a director of agent services who's dedicated to that? When does a market center roughly able to afford that person?
So I would say the first thing I would say is if you have a productivity coach, which is self-funded. They will do a lot of that stuff for you until you get to 150, 175 agents, et cetera. And then it's time to start adding staff. If you'll go to page 273 in the MREA and build your market center staff exactly like we teach to build a top team.
There you go.
But and here's the other thing is, especially after some recent events, I don't like using agent count as much as I like using closed units, because the unit drives all the work in the market center.
Love that.
And whether it's a listing taken or a packet or a closing or whatever, so you can have 100 agents and only close 10 houses a month, right? And so I want to be careful that we're always leading with revenue and not expenses.
Really smart.
Yep.
Well, everyone, on behalf of all of you, I'm going to thank Mark, and on behalf of our team, we can't be more grateful than we are for the wonderful time you spent with us.
Hugs.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, everybody. I'm so excited. This took a whole team to put together. I hope I didn't mess it up too much. I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. The amazing Robert Bell, who wrote all this stuff.
And please stay on with us. We're going to go for a couple more minutes. And if you guys have ahas and KW, thank you again, Mark. Have a great regional director meeting with Gary today. We want to make sure that you guys know we have some action items, some next steps that we absolutely hope that you'll work with each other and your OPs to take those action steps in the next few days. days and months to really put what we've heard Mark share with us today into practice. So Robert and I were going to spend a few moments going over that, and of course continuing to take your ahas and any questions, and then we'll wrap up in time to let you guys get back to your morning, afternoon, or in some cases a very late evening. So thank you again for spending time with us, and a big thanks to Mark King. Robert, will you kind of kick us off a little bit with what we're talking about here on the screen?
Sure. So for next steps, number one, we wanted to get you to create a GPS if you haven't done so already. And the idea there is to prioritize what your goals, priorities, and strategies are for the coming year. Based on what Mark was talking about, what is the most important thing that you as a market center can do? What is the most important thing that you as a team leader can do going forward? I think we heard pretty clearly what that is, which is recruiting 2 cappers a month.
Grow.
And so then everything else falls from that. What are the 3 priorities that you're going to break down to recruit 2 cappers a month for the coming year? And then what are the 5 strategies for each one?
And I think that's a good example of what a typical GPS might look like for a team leader. And let's take a few moments, if it's all right with you, and we'll kind of map out. George, we're going to go to the whiteboard real fast. Just while we're talking about the number 1 next step, the idea of creating a GPS, there's some of us that may not know what we mean by GPS.
And we included this in your packet as well. So maybe I should actually just quickly go over all the stuff that we put in the packet.
That would be great.
If I can now find it. We have the GPS plan. We have your 411 form, which we'll talk about. But we also included Mark's coaching sheet for consulting your top associates. We included the script packet, the transition plan, those action plans that he was talking about, that PAM form that he uses to communicate recruiting opportunities with his team. The needs analysis questions, the exact ones that he uses, and he often says during trainings, follow my footsteps exactly with that needs analysis. Just ask those questions when you do the needs analysis. So all of those things are there for you. That should be pretty much everything that he mentioned. And like you said, if you ever want to catch up with him on Facebook, he's always adding more material there as well.
Yeah, and I think there's so much great content there. When I go to team leader groups, especially on Facebook, I find myself just spending the majority of my first few interactions listening and reading and taking that in, because there's so much great stuff that's already been answered. So I highly recommend scrolling down through those groups and looking at some of the history of the conversations, because there's a lot of team leaders that have lived before us, so you don't have to repeat or even wait on answers. You can find a lot of it in these libraries that have been built in the Keller Williams ecosystem.
So back to the GPS plan.
So going back to that GPS, which you have, so we won't spend a lot of time on this, understand GPS means goals, priorities, and then strategies. Goals, priorities, and strategies. Sometimes in Keller Williams, you'll hear this referred to as a 1-3-5, because there's 1 goal, 3 priorities, and 5 strategies. And just as Robert provided in the packet, you'll see those detailed out, that 1 goal and those 3 priorities, and of course the strategies underneath, 5 for each priority. So that's how it looks on the sheet. The reason we wanted to highlight this is because for your action steps, there are a couple things to consider. One, if you're a team leader in this conversation right now, it's important to understand whether or not the Market Center has created their own GPS for the rest of 2019, because these are annual goals, right? And if they have, great, start dialoguing about that if you haven't. If they have not, then work together as a team and build that GPS. If you want, you can even go further and create a GPS for your role as the team leader. So when you look at the Market Center goal for the year, ask yourself and your OP in partnership, what's my role in accomplishing the GPS for the Market Center? And you could take that one priority or goal that you have to accomplish and build out how you're going to achieve that in your own personal GPS.
And how can I leverage what I've learned today over the past couple of days?
That should be a big part of it, absolutely.
Right.
Great point. So don't be afraid to make a personal GPS for your role. It's a powerful habit that Gary and the Keller Williams University team have taught us, both for our roles and, of course, these businesses that we're partners in.
Great.
And then we can go to step 2.
Step 2 is to work on a 411. That form was included in your packet, and that breaks it down to what is your monthly goal based on your GPS. What are the top things, the big rocks for this month, that I can pursue to hit that GPS goal for the year. And then you break it down week by week. And it's an accountability tool. It's something that you can use with your OP, or if you're an OP, you can use it with your team leader, or with anybody that is your accountability partner to keep on track with your GPS goals
Absolutely.
on a week-by-week basis.
Think of a 4-on-1. Again, going back to the flip chart here for you guys, you'll see this in your packet. It's typically going to break down, and the reason we call it a 4-on-1 is because it's one year, a goal for this year, or goals that you have written out for this year, the month that we're currently in, which in this case, you're probably building a 4-on-1 for next month, July, since that starts on Monday. And then you would have essentially 4 columns, right? One for each week of the month. So that's the 4. So the idea here is start getting specific about how this goal, what the goal is, what you need to accomplish this month in order to be on track to accomplish the goal for the year. And then each week it's the same question. What do I need to be have accomplished this week in order to be on track to get this task done this month? So that's a 4-on-1, very fast and furious. And your regions are probably training on this. Your market centers may have this training already done. But if you haven't ever been exposed to a 4-on-1, this is a powerful way to have a single piece of paper. You can sit down with that accountability partner and be clear about what you're committing to get done in the upcoming week, month, and of course for the whole year. And then be held accountable and able to do that by focusing on the evidence and the commitment you've made rather than the emotions and the challenges of our day-to-day operating lives and businesses, right? It can get very busy. This is meant to provide clarity, not be punitive, but be clear with our accountability partner so that we can hit the goals that we say that we want.
Great. And then step 3, we've already started talking about an accountability partner, right? Identify who that person is. Communicate to that person that you are going to work with them to keep each other accountable. It's probably someone in your market center, but as Mark suggested, I think it would be fine if it's another team leader that you're close to in your area. But someone that you're going to have regular communication with, who you know is going to check in with you about your progress with your 411, the activities that you're pursuing to achieve your goals, and make sure that you actually hit those.
Don't be afraid to leverage technology in this regard, whether it's phone call or WhatsApp calls or Zoom video calls or Skype calls. Use whatever technology you're happy with to find that partner in the Keller Williams ecosystem that maybe you could script or role play with or hold each other accountable. That's actually one of the best kept secrets in Keller Williams, is this community that is formed. And you see mega agents and major teams and expansion teams and team leaders and market center owners and of course regional leaders that have built this community, and you will find that they're learning as much and getting as much value from each other as they are from the different tools and systems that Keller Williams has offered. So take advantage of technology, take advantage of the market center staff and leaders that are right next to you, and don't be afraid. Get into the awkwardness of having an accountability partner and just get over it, because it's what takes you from good to great. This practice that we're talking about and this idea of having a partner who's going through this journey with you, it is where things change. And we go from hearing great ideas and great models and actually implementing them and using them.
I think it's the one thing that says it's time on task over time.
Exactly.
And that's one of Gary's big messages. And it's hard to do that completely on your own. I find that that's the case. I need someone to check in with constantly to make sure that I am putting that time in regularly every single day to pursue the activities that are going to lead me to where I want to go.
When you look at the difference in performance in any industry or any field, especially sports, when you have a coach and a partner, it's dramatically different than, partner. It's already making us better. Don's our great partner. But when you have that partner that can look out for you and help you out and see what you may not see, it dramatically changes your results. Imagine the best sports teams in the world trying to perform without a coach or a head coach or even coaches for each of the different parts of the team. So why would we go into our businesses completely alone? Right. It just doesn't make sense. We want our children to have great coaches and great teachers. We want our sports teams to have great coaches and great managers, but then we go into business and we're working alone.
Right.
You need partners and you need coaches, so get that partner and don't be afraid that it's weird or awkward or uncomfortable. It's that way for everybody. Just get past it and get into that conversation, because it'll change your life.
Right.
And that takes us to number 4.
To number 4. So, I mean, one of the biggest things you can do, and this is where we left off with Mark, is practice those scripts and dialogues. They are not natural. They're not natural, just as they're not natural
Not natural at all.
for your agents who need to practice them. They won't be natural for team leaders
No.
either. And so that's a time on task over time thing. That's where you have to put the time in. You have to make them become natural, internalize those scripts and dialogues over time with your accountability partner. You have to have that give and take with them. So work that into your 411. Make sure work that into your time blocking. That's part of your
Absolutely.
daily calendar to practice the activities that are going to lead you to your goals.
What's really wonderful is built into the agent training that you in your market center and your teams are putting together for your agents is an opportunity for you as a team leader to go in and practice what you're doing. And what's wonderful is your agents are going to love to see that because you're role modeling for them the same practice they should be doing on their scripts and dialogues for working with clients. And they're also seeing that you're mastering your focus and your responsibility to grow the office and grow their wealth. So, for example, if your region is putting on Bold or Ignite, or if your market center is putting on Ignite, or any class where an agent is going in and practicing scripts and dialogues or even doing real calls, that's an opportunity for you as a team leader to go in and be with your fellow agents, show them that you're involved and you're into mastery and learning as well, and call your recruits or role play with your accountability partner.
It's so great to see
it's
that
amazing
in
to
a
see the
Bold
difference.
class
Yeah.
when you see team leaders in the same activities as the agents.
Exactly.
They're dialing just alongside the agents.
100%. We have a real challenge sometimes with team leaders who think my job is to go and observe the class and watch and maybe check WhatsApp or Facebook while class is going on. Make no mistake, your people are watching you, and they're watching your behavior because you're the leader. So as team leaders, we can operate at a higher standard and hold ourselves accountable to role modeling what we want to see in our agents. And that means going into these trainings and doing the activities for the audience that we're looking for, which are top capping agents, market share agents, and actually doing those activities and doing the scripts and the role plays. It does make a huge difference in the culture and the environment of learning you're trying to create. So those are the 4.
Those are the 4. And what I was wondering is, we've kind of talked through the next steps, a plan of action, but just, so you'll probably go back to your teams and talk about what your goals are, and that'll be great. But I was wondering, what do you see, based on what you've learned over the past couple days, what do you see as your opportunities for your market center? What do you see as the activities that you're going to pursue right away to start to put this plan into action and start recruiting 2 cappers a month?
Yeah, share through Slido. We'd love to hear, like, what are your next steps? Are they these 4? Is there something else maybe that you're focused on as well? We'll stay here till 11. All right, any other ahas that you guys want to share with us, or questions that you have remaining that Robert and I could help with? Oh, great, a few on Slido.
When will you need a coach? Do they need to be paid coaches, or accountability with peers would be enough?
Great question. This is going to be a very unique decision in every market center and with every person, because a lot of that happens to do with the relationship you have with the market center owner and, of course, where you're at in your growth life cycle, if you will. So when will you need a coach? I would say I would be seeking out a coach in any role where I had a goal. The first thing is we must take responsibility of identifying what our goals are so that we can go to a coach and say, here's where I am, here's where I want to go. And the only way a coach can really be effective is to know what's the gap that you're trying to fill. If you're lucky enough to find that in the leadership that you're working with, and that's a relationship that can grow, where the OP is coaching you as a team leader, that is the basis of a strong OP team leader relationship. It's a partnership. Yes, the OP is in charge. They are the boss. And yet they should also be a great coach and consultant for you in achieving your goal. because your opportunity is tied to your success and your ability to grow that office. That's the commitment you're making to the OP, and the OP should be making a commitment to you to help you achieve that goal, not by doing the job for you, but by being there to have those conversations every week. If you want to go beyond that, that's absolutely normal and natural. We do have team leaders who get into coaching. MAPS coaching in particular is a whole different opportunity, and I would talk to your regions about your desire to get into mastery coaching. That is an opportunity, but obviously there's language barriers and things like that that need to be considered. So work with your regions. They can talk to us and the MAPS team about having a coach and when is appropriate to pay for coaching at that level. But until then, I would work with your Market Center leadership and then maybe even the region to come up with ideas on who's available to be accountability partners at a formal level, because the payment may be something you don't have to do right away. It could be accountability and a win-win partnership. That's why we say accountability partner, because then you could help each other out. You could partner and coach each other rather than just having a one-way relationship, right?
Do you have an example of what a 135 looks like for a TL? That's a really, really good question. I have several examples. I'm searching my memory right now as to if I have any that are specific to a team leader. I can try to get you some of the examples for market centers. What I would say is for a team leader, you might start with the premise. Let's say you take as your goal recruiting 2 cappers a month, so that's 24 cappers over the next year. Then you follow through from there. Personally, I would look at it as, how do I set my staff up to set me up for success to be able to do that? So that might be one of the priorities that I choose. How do I engage with my ALC and my top agents to help them build their downline by referring top agents to me? So what are the activities I'm going to pursue through that? And then the basic recruiting activities that Mark was covering, what am I going to choose to focus on there? That's kind of how I would break it out. But
yeah, and if I could use the flip chart, I think this is a really great question. You're going to see 135s for team leaders that are widely different all over the system. But here's what I think Keller Williams and Keller Williams University might recommend. If I'm a team leader, traditionally, my compensation might be based on achieving the operating profit goal for the owners of the office.
Yes.
So there's probably a salary and potentially a profit opportunity, or a profit share or profits interest opportunity. That's not always the case, and it's not required. It's just something to think about, because if I'm incentivized to grow the profit for the owner, then that could be a powerful way to grow in my team leader role. So my first thought, regardless of my compensation, is going to be, well, what's my goal? What am I accountable to do? What if I did not do it would get me fired, right?
Right.
So what has to be accomplished? And that's a conversation the OP and the team leader have to have. It's typically going to be an amount of profit, forgive the dollar sign, but some sort of money, profit number or goal that's measurable. Well, as a team leader, how do we do that? It's that number of cappers, right? Joining. That would probably be one of the top priorities. Number of cappers that join each month or for the year. Second one is probably going to be manage or keep expenses at or below budget.
that's a great one.
Because we can't have profit if we recruit everybody that's in the marketplace but then spend all the money. So you got to manage both of these as a leader, and there's staff that will help you with these things.
Right.
And then the last would probably be, I would argue, deliver value in some way so that you're keeping the agents you have.
Right.
These would be the 3 major focuses of a team leader, in my opinion. But again, in your 135, you put them in order of priority. These are not possible to manage the expenses and create value if you're not adding cappers, if you're not growing the market center. In this model, you have to grow. So when you grow, then it makes managing the expenses easier.
It creates a lot of value.
It creates a lot of value.
Yeah.
So in your 135, create your priorities so that the first one knocks down the second one and the third one, and put them in that order, not in time order or sequential, but in which one's the biggest priority that could potentially help you achieve this profit goal, even if you failed at number 2 and number 3. Make this big, because this makes everything else easier or unnecessary in a team leader's world. So that's why it's that 2 cappers a month standard. In the U.S., it's probably a different standard in your region.
And we saw a comment that one person said that one of their next steps is just to work on their calendar, and I think that's a great next step.
I think that's an excellent next
such a
step.
big part of this training is what's on your calendar helps to sort of determine your path to success as a team leader.
Yeah. Gary Keller teaches us that there's two ways to see what people value and what they're committed to. Look at where they're spending their money and look at their calendar. So if you want to know what you truly value in life, look at your receipts and look at your daily calendar. And so I think this is a brilliant aha and question to point out that that is a critical action item as part of these next 4 steps.
Has BOLD been held outside of the U.S. and Canada?
Yeah, that's going to be up to your region on when they're ready to do that. We would recommend you have enough agents to in your region and in your market centers to make BOLD a really powerful experience. But in Mexico, I think France has begun doing that. I'm probably leaving out Portugal, but definitely some of our bigger regions have started implementing BOLD, and it's a very powerful opportunity. But work with your regions on when the right time is for that.
Can we have an example of how a market center can be set up for a great power walk? I think that's a really good question, and we're actually creating new team leader training even as we speak. I think there's an opportunity for a video where you can see a team leader walk an agent or a recruit through a power walk.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, what would you suggest?
This is a tough
JP?
one because we don't have a lot of that like video content walkthrough. There's some older videos that are on KW Connect that may show you that. But I would say get on social media if you can and start following KW France, KW Portugal, KW Mexico, some of our more established regions that have gone so far as to implement some of the installations that you see that Keller Williams provides and the marketing team provides, because they're great visuals, pictures and layouts that might help you get an idea of what is available if that's important to you. But what I heard Mark say is really that it's not about all that stuff. It's about letting the staff and the other top agents in your office know when you're having that power walk and strategically positioning them in a place so that when you do come through, you can make those introductions and ingrain that leader in the culture and in the relationships of the market center.
We have more questions here. Keep the questions coming too. These are great. What trainings would you recommend for top producers?
I think Mark said it best. It's all right here. If you're just getting started, I would start doing a book club with this book with your top agents. There's not there's not an issue that a mega agent's going through or a top producer's going through that's not going to be prescribed a solution in this book. This is still to this day, after 15 years, our #1 recruiting tool. So master this book. Don't be afraid to get into a room with a flip chart and sit down and start doing a chapter by chapter book club with your top people. And don't give them the whole book to read. Give them a few pages and then come in and let their conversation be the value. Remember, Gary Keller, since 1983, has been listening to top agents, getting them in a room, sitting down with a flip chart and saying, tell me about your business. How's the market? What are you experiencing? And ask great, powerful, thought-provoking questions. That's value enough for most top producers. They know how to list and sell. They don't need you to teach them how to do it. They want to be in the room where all the other top producers are sharing ideas about how to do more. Right. Because the truth is, they know they do 80% of the business. You don't need to teach them how to do 81%. You need to teach them how to dialogue and share with each other so they all get better. Yes. And that's what it means to be a top producer. You get into that conversation and you're facilitating it. Beyond that, I would say there are courses, wonderful courses that Keller Williams University has put together around Millionaire Real Estate Agent that supplement and go along with this class. Those are great. And of course, you can work with the regions on all the materials that they've provided to you as market centers as well.
And I see Renelle has her hand raised. Hi, Renelle.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, wait. Okay. JP, I just want to ask you this question. We have changed from recruiting to really recruiting now cappers. And the emphasis on this training has now been for 2 days, 2 cappers a month. So what is Worldwide predict? How long are we going to get into the phase of getting as team leaders ready to get in there? Because it's going to take us now time, instead of just recruiting 10 to 15 recruits a month, now is focusing on 2 cappers a month. And I would like to know from where you guys are coming in for us now to change our complete way of, because we go for market share agents now. So
So if I think I'm understanding your question, you're wondering, is the standard changing in saying it's not about the number of recruits you get per month, it's just about the 2 cappers per month? You're kind of asking, is that standard changing?
The numbers is still trying to get up there, but it's market share agents that's changed now since 2 years ago now to market share agents, plus very much emphasis on 2 cappers per month that I've seen in this training, which I 100% agree. I don't disagree. I 100% agree. But we now our focus is on 2 cappers now a month, what you told us.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's a change to the standard that you and your regions have set. It's just simply a focus.
That's right.
That, again, thinking about success is sequential, not simultaneous. So if I, as a team leader, have to focus my energy, it should be on capper agent appointments. Because if I get a capper, remember, from our experience, a capper's gonna bring you everyone else as well. A good capping agent could bring you 2 or 3 other agents at various levels. So it's not a reduction of the standard of the number of appointments you go on, which is the first activity that we track in the 4 conversations. If the standard in your market center is 20 appointments or 30 appointments or 40 appointments, whatever the standard is in your region and in your market center, focus on that. But within that appointment, make sure that you're focusing on a certain percentage of those. We would say 50% of those appointments should be with capper appointments, meaning market share appointments, agents that have market share. So make sure you and your regional leadership understand exactly what those standards are. And then I, as a team leader, would put all my energy into trying to keep that, maybe it's 2 cappers a month for you, in my mind as a standard of a point of focus. Not to eliminate what we're saying the standard is, but to say this is how I achieve that standard in the most efficient and effective way. Because if I do that and I use Mark's script about asking Wendy, who do you know that might be a 10 that would join today or tomorrow? I need to be doing those things because that's how we take advantage of 1 capper who could turn into 3 or 4 recruits. Does that make sense?
And I think
it's a point of focus, not changing our numbers or moving the standard. It's just saying team leaders should focus on cappers because it gets you everything else.
And Mark's put it forward as a model to work for team leaders. And a big part of that, too, is having, say, a productivity coach in place eventually that can take on some of the recruiting that the team leader would normally do.
100%.
If you don't have that, then
Yep.
you have to work your way up toward that.
Exactly. If we look at the Southwest Market Center here in Austin, Texas as an example, they have 900 agents in that office. There's 2 team leaders and a productivity coach, or actually 2 productivity coaches, and they as a team have to recruit 30 agents every single month that join, not appointments, but 30 agents that join just to stay even. Because you'll have at least 30 every month just moving out of the industry or deciding not to be in real estate anymore and leaving the market center. So in order to stay even at that size, they have to, as a team, collectively get 30 a month. Well, how do they break down that focus? The team leaders go on market share appointments only, and the productivity coaches go on all the other recruiting appointments. They have career nights.
Or you may have an
and all of
assistant
that.
team leader as
Or
well.
assistant
Eventually,
team leader.
you can build out a team that can take on a lot of that recruiting.
Exactly.
load.
So until you're at that size, or if you're never at that size, set up your staff to understand how they can win, especially with growth share, in participating in that.
Right.
Team leader goes on market share appointments. The MCA should be working in any way that they can to bring in any and all other agents to build their growth share tree. And certainly the productivity coach is an excellent self-funded way to do that. And then, of course, the director of first impressions and any other staff you might have that opportunity as well. And please don't forget, your ALC is your board of directors. If you're not holding them accountable and helping them build their wealth, then you're missing a huge opportunity to hit that standard. They should be giving you warm referrals, and that's an expectation that we have when an ALC member joins the ALC for that year that they're on. And then they can stay on year after year if they want.
Right. Is it possible for Bold to be taught via webinar format?
That's a really
Maybe
great
at some
question for
point.
MAPS, but I'll tell you, my gut is probably not. And the only reason I would say that pretty definitively is because it's such an activities-based program. It's really not training, it's coaching in the classroom over 7 weeks with a coach who's physically in the classroom, and it's high accountability, high activity, where we're physically in the room making calls together, and it's extremely powerful. I would be very hesitant to believe that John and his team would be willing to change that and modify it for webinar format. But it is something we're thinking about and dialoguing about them more and more. So as our bigger regions are using Bold, we're going to absolutely experiment with those ideas, because I know Elizabeth's out in Bermuda. It's going to be tough to have a Bold there until they have enough agents to where that would be a profitable venture for them. But we'll keep dialoguing about that for sure.
Is there some resource for training or equipping a director of first impressions?
That's a great question for KWU. I don't know if you guys have done that. I haven't been exposed to much for directors of first impressions.
We don't have anything that I know of that's specific to directors of first impressions in terms of training. What I would say at this point is a training like this would probably be very good. You know, what you just experienced over the last couple of days would probably be very good for a director of first impressions to watch, to understand how they can support the team leader. And any sort of market center level leadership training is good training for really any staff in the market center.
Yeah, some key things are obviously your standard for how the office is managed and maintained, especially in terms of that first impression that clients are going to have and agents have. But I would say a great resource for you is the communities that have formed on Facebook, and later you'll see these in Connect inside the command system and in the Keller Cloud. But for now, I would go to the Team Leader Fundamentals group that Mark was talking about during this training, join that group and look for that kind of information, or even ask that question. I would also recommend another team leader group that's very popular on Facebook called Team Leaders Making It Happen. So it's Team Leaders Making It Happen. If you search Team Leaders Making It Happen on Facebook, you'll find that group. It's run by some wonderful Keller Williams leaders, and I definitely see those kind of questions all the time. Hey, who has a great job description for a director of first impressions, or a great onboarding packet for a new agent? All sorts of great, easy, accessible examples from other market centers that have done it as well.
Great. A comment here, we're really good at recruiting. Our opportunity is to convert recruits to Kellerized functioning entities. That's great. And I think, you know, that's where the training comes into place. That's where the consulting comes into place. So those non-recruiting responsibilities of the team leader and the leadership team to support the agents that are in the market center, that's when those come into play.
If the opportunity, if by opportunity you mean to get better at having Kellerized functioning entities or Kellerized market centers is what I think you mean, I would point you to the Agent Leadership Council Clinic. Mo Anderson, our vice chairman of the board and former CEO, will tell you, you can walk into any market center, and if it doesn't feel and operate like a Keller Williams market center, you probably are missing an ALC, or the ALC is not functioning at a high level. Right. So if you feel like some of these market centers could have that opportunity, I would support them either from the regional level or as a market center owner in helping the team leader put together a highly engaged and powerful ALC. And it's very simple. Get your top agents together, a handful of them to represent all the other agents, start talking about this book and pouring value into those agents. If you do that, you will create an engaged ALC that you can start asking for their help in power walks, training classes, a growth committee, an education committee, a profitability committee, all these types of activities that help the agents see how you're running your business in a very Kellerized way, and that in turn role models for them to run their agent business the same way.
Right. You two are so great as Mark. You are too kind. You're far too kind.
It's my favorite.
My question is about setting goals. Being aggressive, but also achieving them is important. How do you recommend to set huge goals?
You have something on this? I have a few things, but I'm stealing from Gary.
You go first.
Okay. Here's the challenge with goal setting is that there's standards and then there's goals. Standards are the minimum, right? So be clear on what your standards are. because that's just an expectation. For example, Lucas Sheridan and Mark in Team Leader Fundamentals, they talk very clearly about the standard they set when they hire new team leaders. They're not mistaken on what the standard is. In their market centers, because they're in the United States, the standard is very clear that it's 40 appointments every single month without fail. So when a new team leader is hired, and this is pretty tough language, so bear with me, they say right at the very beginning to set that person up for success, if at the end of your first 30 days you have anything less than 40 appointments that you've completed, you will be fired on the spot. That's their language, that's their standard, and they're very prepared to support that standard. So if that person does 39, they're not achieving the standard and they're gone. Now, you have to decide what your standards are in your market center and with your region, and that's up to you. But your goals are different. Goals are something we're striving for. And Gary Keller would say setting goals is just like trying to break through a board. When you break through a board, you don't visualize hitting the board. You visualize a point just past the board, and you punch for that, and that's how you break through it. So in a way, you have to think about your goals the same way. Don't set your goals so that they're so realistic they don't inspire you, but also don't set them so big that they're laughable and just not realistic. Right. So you want to find a sweet spot in the middle where they kind of scare you, but if you gave them to a coach and with the right kind of accountability sessions happening in a frequency of every week or every few weeks, you could realistically stay on track to hit them.
Also, if you set goals that you'll never hit and you keep setting goals that you'll never hit, how meaningful are those goals really? Are you ever going to feel a real sense of accomplishment? Are you ever going to move forward?
Exactly.
I mean, so you want to make sure that if you're setting goals that you're not hitting, that you would maybe adjust them down. This is where I think a coach could really come.
Coach can really help.
Handy.
Honestly, it's about just looking at our numbers and being those business professionals that build that habit.
Right.
If you're not looking at your numbers, then it's impossible to know how you are at goal setting. And we look at them in very specific ways. If we set a goal for our 135 or our GPS for the year, and at the end of that year, we didn't come anywhere close to hitting it, then we need to have a conversation about how we went about setting those goals and why we weren't able to set them more properly. We obviously don't have a problem with missing the goal. I mean, that might have been a legitimate reason that we missed the goal. Right. But why did we not predict very well? Let's get better at that. Now, let's say we blew past the goal and we're double the goal. We went way past it. Well, that's still a problem because we didn't set our goal very well. We maybe could have achieved more if we'd put that goal higher because we easily beat it. So we still have the same conversation of why are we not setting our goals properly? And so that is something that you have to really do year after year and build it as a habit. Nobody has a magic pill, but if you do that year after year, you will get better and better at goal setting. And we have some amazing leaders in this organization that set goals, and it's pretty phenomenal to watch. After the years of setting goals and doing this habit, they almost nail them to the dollar sometimes. It's pretty amazing to watch, even in an organization of this size. But it just takes that time on task of building the habit of learning from your goal setting practices and revising them each year.
That's great.
Great questions.
Yeah, these are really good. To lead a team is our standard, or the standard of the team? Do you know what
to lead a team is our standard or the standard of the team? I don't think I understand the question if you don't mind clarifying it. But what I would say is everything starts at leadership. Our regions are clear on their standards. Make sure that you as market center owners are clear on the standard expected, and then market center owners obviously have standards they need to set at the local level. So don't overcomplicate it. Just be clear on, if we're in business together, what's the standard? What's the minimum we need to do so I understand where everyone's expected to play? And then in that environment, I'm going to shoot for all sorts of goals. We have team leaders that want to go to 60 appointments a month or 70 appointments a month, where 40 is laughable in their minds. And then we have other market centers where 40 is a really tough thing to hit. There's no right or wrong. Just be clear on what am I expected to hit in my role in this business partnership with you.
Oh, this is great. We had a comment about using the SMART technique for goals: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and putting in a time frame. That's a great framework.
Yeah, so that the acronym is SMART. We use it a lot in Keller Williams University and Keller Williams overall. It's specific, measurable, action or achievable. Sometimes people call it achievable or action-based, realistic, and time-bound or time frame, as they said here. So you can use that as a great benchmark for how to set proper goals. So SMART goals, S-M-A-R-T.
Do you have some way of managing answers when the issue is money? They don't want to pay for something they can do for free.
When we say they, who are we talking about? If you can clarify that on Slido, that'd be great.
Yeah, it sounds like associates, but I'm not exactly sure. What is a good way to set an accountability culture with Market Center staff? I think one of the coolest things about Keller Williams is that the systems that are set up are replicable to different parts of the business, right? So the same system that you would use to consult top associates to set goals with top associates, you could use with your staff, the GPS, the 411, the same conversation that we had around consulting your agents' businesses and building your leadership team around goals. You can also use to set priorities and goals with your staff.
100%. I think there's a big word that we don't talk about a lot in Keller Williams formally, but I think it's there, and I think anybody would agree with this, that there's this concept of vulnerability. And I think in a market center, especially in the type of training environments that Keller Williams University has created, and especially MAPS with Bold and some of the things that we're doing together in these group environments and in these business relationships, is we're all creating safe spaces for us to be vulnerable and to say, hey, I don't know how to say that script, or I've never done it before. And it's a pretty vulnerable thing to make calls to your database in a classroom environment with other people. And it's a pretty vulnerable thing to be held accountable and ask somebody to hold you accountable. So if you want to set that culture in your market center, I'd say the number one way to do it, and it's actually a requirement because it will never become a culture in your environment unless the leader seen at the top of the organization of that office is vulnerable enough to be held accountable. So what does that mean? It means, you look at Gary Keller, he was the first broker owner in the United States to ever talk to his agents about the business and be vulnerable enough to say, here's where I've made mistakes, here's where I'm learning, here's how I'm running my business, how are you running your business? So I think if I were an OP of a market center or a team leader of a market center, I'd be very open and transparent with my ALC about how I'm being held accountable and what my goals are. And when you create that environment and it's one of partnership, not of I'm the boss and you work for me, create a partnership dynamic, even set the seats in a circle and be accountable as much as you're asking them to be accountable, and include the staff in those conversations.
I love that. And actually, I would add to that, I think some of the great leaders that I've seen in this company really know the big why of all the people that they work with. So knowing, the tools that you have around goal setting to the now, which you did at the beginning of this course, the tools you have around the KPA and the career visioning process, really understanding your people and what motivates them and drives them is a big part of that. Know their goals, and how your goals as a market center are aligned with their goals. And that helps to create natural accountability. People want to be accountable to their own goals. They want to see their own goals realized.
I 100% agree with that. The story I always go back to is Gary's story about Mary Tennant, who became our president and is now a member of our board of directors. In the early days, she was the rookie agent of the year in the first market center here in Austin, Texas. And after Gary hired managers to take over his very first office, he left and he never went back. He never went back for classes. He never walked around the hallways. He was done. Gary's known at a very high level of being able to find leverage and maximizing his time because he manages his time very well. Well, one day Mary Tennant walked in the team leader's office and said, hey, who is this Gary Keller guy? His name's on my signs. I've never seen him. Who is he?
Right.
And eventually it became clear that Gary needed to go and have a presence in the office. And what Gary did is he went in and started teaching about his life and his business. And he started opening up who he is and how he's made his decisions. And I think when somebody does that, they start to create that opportunity for people to share their big whys and start creating a culture where there's a conversation going on. If that conversation by Mary Tennant had not happened, if she hadn't pushed, I honestly don't know if Keller Williams would have developed as quickly as it did. Because that was a game-changing moment for Gary to come back into the market center and start teaching to his own agents and not just assume the market center would do it.
And you look at something like expansion businesses, it follows the same sort of course where the goals of individual agents became so big that it helped to push the company to an even bigger place.
Absolutely. Keller Williams University taught me this better than anybody. Leadership is teaching people how to think. It's our definition. It's Gary's definition. I would submit that it should be all of our definition, that the best way we serve our people is teaching them how to think and then get out of the way and continue to be there as a coach and a leader and as a trainer. And I think Keller Williams University gives you those tools to do it.
Awesome. How many appointments to recruit a mega agent?
That really depends.
It really depends.
Don't be afraid if it takes you a year to get somebody. We've got people that it's taken, one of my dearest friends who's in the company, Mary Tennant, and a few other people, including myself, recruited that person for 10 years. And now he's with us, and it's a great joy, but it took us forever, and I'm even friends with that person.
On the other side of that, don't be afraid to close, as Mark said. You know, don't be afraid to close on that first appointment. Often, at least
100%.
It happens where you can close on a first appointment. So I would never discount that possibility.
Yeah. I think by asking the scale of 1 to 10 question that Mark asked in the video of Wendy, you can let the mega agent define that for you, which is the more powerful way to answer that question, because it will be different for everybody based on their personal and professional situation. So if you just have the courage to ask that question, say on a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being you're never going to join, you're happy where you are, you're never going to leave, and 10 being here's the paperwork you're going to sign today, where are you? Let them tell you. If they say I'm a 2, then really dig into why. What's missing?
Yeah.
How could I help you? What would it look like for you to be part of our organization, and figure it out? That will help you decide and understand how long it is before they join and how many appointments it might take.
I think that's all the questions that we have.
Man, you guys are on fire. I love it. Thank you so much again. I want to thank Robert, Dawn, Stacia, all of Keller Williams University, George, who's running our tech equipment, and of course, April, Grace, Carson, Meredith, all of the amazing Worldwide team, our president, Bill Soderoff, but most importantly, all of you for being learning-based leaders, for engaging in this new technology with us, working through all the different unique issues and glitches that happen with new technology, and being such great participants. It's a great joy for us to do this and to serve in this way, and we're learning just as much from you as we hope you're getting from Mark and all of us. Well, until next time, thank you very much. The recordings and the materials will be sent out to the regions from our team probably later today. Just a little bit of video crunching needs to happen, and we'll get that out to the regions. So work with your Market Center leadership and regions to disseminate that to the different offices. Thanks again, Robert.
Thank you, JP.
Thank you, guys. Thanks again, and have a great rest of your evening, afternoon, or morning, and a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next time.
Bye.